This is Bishop Craig in Lansing, and this is take one for the week of April 27. Peace be with you. Christ is risen. Christ is risen indeed. This week marks the first of 4 trips to the great state of Ohio in the next 6 weeks. On Monday, Pastor Bright and I will be traveling to Archibald, Ohio for First Call Theological Education with Region 6. We gather the pastors and deacons in their first 3 years of ministry, along with synod bishops and some staff members and some mentors for a retreat. This one is on preaching and worship, so I'll have a bit of a big role in that. But both Bishop Laura Barbans and I are homiletics professors, so each of us will give a keynote address. We will also facilitate a panel, and I'm leading a workshop, and I am preaching and presiding at Closing Eucharist. So this will be a big week for me. We're back on Thursday. The gospel reading for the first Sunday in May, the third Sunday of Easter, is one of my favorites. It comes from John's Gospel. 7 of the disciples, and they're some of the notable ones, decide that they are going to go fishing, and Jesus comes to them, the risen Christ comes to them on the seashore and commands them, and they receive an abundance of fish, and they come ashore, and there's a charcoal fire where Jesus is cooking them breakfast, more fish. And then there is some conversation with Peter around the charcoal fire, same charcoal fire word that was outside the high priest's house, where Jesus asked Peter 3 times, "Do you love me?" Kind of a chance to redirect or not redo, but a chance to correct perhaps his denial on the night before Jesus died. So there's a lot here in this gospel reading. I don't know how you cover it at all. I'm going to preach one sermon for pastors in their first years of ministry that I don't want to give away on this Take One video. But if I was preaching in congregations, I might talk about abundance, the abundance of the fish, that the resurrection is abundance. I might talk about Jesus coming to us in the midst of our everyday work, fishing, and that the resurrection of Christ is not something we have to conjure or create, that it's out there, that Jesus is bringing new life, and that Jesus comes to us. So I would perhaps make resurrection Jesus' work and not our work. And I would invite us to be on the lookout for resurrection. Realizing that when Jesus came to the disciples on the shore, just as when he came to the disciples on the walk to Emmaus in Luke, they did not recognize him, at least not right off. So Jesus may come to us in someone we cannot recognize and bring resurrection, and one sign of resurrection might be abundance. So that's my secondary sermon, I guess, for this reading for the 4th of May. 3 of the things I'd like to talk to you about before I go. First, registration for Synod Assembly is closed, and we have already needed to pass those numbers on, those registrations on to people that need to work with them, like those assigning rooms for workshops, those working on the credentials. So registration is closed. I expect that beginning this week, voting members and visitors will begin to receive emails about the assembly. Now, here is the tricky part. Sometimes emails go to spam filters, so you need to check your spam filter every so often to see if you've gotten any emails. More importantly, many of our congregations had the church administrator or the church secretary register everyone. And so the church administrator or the church secretary used as the email address office at St. John's by the gas station Lutheran Church.org, which means everybody's email from the assembly will go to office at St. John by the gas station Lutheran.org. So if you're the church secretary or administrator who registered everybody for the assembly and it's coming to you at office.nameofchurch.org, you need to be responsible for attending to those emails and forwarding them on to voting members. Okay? So please don't, email us and yell at us that you didn't get your emails if you haven't checked your spam filter and you have not given us your email address. 2, on Tuesday, we are approaching President Trump's 100th day in office. And whether you are in favor of the things he's doing and the decisions he's made, or you disagree with the things he's doing and the decisions he's made, I think we would all agree that there has been an avalanche of change in the last 100 days. And whether it is good change or bad change, sweeping change is hard to deal with. Human beings don't like change. So a movement is starting called Pray Without Ceasing, in which congregations are agreeing to do 2 things. First, they're agreeing to have a set time of prayer, whether in person or on Zoom, during the week, to pray for the changes in our country, in our society, and those most directly affected by the changes. That's one thing. The second thing they are committing to do is to ask 2 other congregations to join them, whether ELCA or Full Communion Partners. So this movement is beginning in the ELCA, and we have reached out to a few congregations, asking them specifically to think about doing this in our synod. And we have posted materials, Pray Without Ceasing, on our synod webpage. So if your congregation is one that would like to get in on this and to not wait to be asked, you can go to Pray Without Ceasing on our webpage, and you could begin to do this. The 2 commitments: a set time during the week to pray, whether in person or on Zoom, to gather people to pray, and second, invite 2 other congregations to do the same thing. So I want to make you aware of that. Third, you may recall that Pastor Bright and I were at the Michigan State Capitol last Tuesday for an End Gun Violence Day. It's interesting, when the shooting at Florida State happened, people in Michigan, including people in our congregations, had kind of an echoing or a PTSD effect. At Michigan State, at Oxford, even back at Mount Pleasant at Central. I remember Pastor Sprang and a couple other pastors on our critical response team and I went and had a gathering at Emmanuel years ago now. But people were affected. Pastor Bright and I were at the state capitol, in which we heard from a young woman who was a high school student at Oxford and who is now in college. And she said kind of 2 things. One, she joined the people who have asked me, Bishop, what are you going to do, or what are you doing to protect our children? That's a pointed question. And 2, she told me that thoughts and prayers are not enough. What are you doing to protect our children from gun violence? And thoughts and prayers are not enough. What we learned a couple of things. One, we learned that the cities in Michigan where this is really impacting people are places like Muskegon, Grand Rapids, Saginaw, and up at the tip of the mitt in the north and in the Upper Peninsula, the concern is men in their 40s using guns to complete suicide. So this really is more than a Detroit issue, right? Benton Harbor is another one we worry about, I guess. So what are we going to do to help our kids in terms of gun violence? And thoughts and prayers are not enough. What I learned is if anybody reaches out to the state police, they will provide gun locks to make guns safe. So we are reaching out to the state police through End Gun Violence, and we are going to have gun locks at assembly for people to take. If you're a gun owner and you don't have a gun lock, it can be for you. If you don't own a gun, but you know someone and love someone who owns a gun, it can be for them. And if that's not true for you, and you know, like a food bank or a diaper pantry, something like that, those are places that people will take gun locks because we are, as Christians, are trusted messengers, right? So that is something we're going to be doing at Assembly. I want to make you aware of it now so that you might begin to pray and to plan and to figure out when I'm going to take a gun lock and this is who I'm going to give it to. That's a good way. Put some words about Jesus loves you and Jesus wants you to be alive, and what a powerful way to witness. So those are the things that I wanted to share with you today. Lots going on. While Pastor Chrissy and I are away, I expect the rest of the staff will be digging deep into getting ready for Assembly, and I am grateful to them for doing that. Please pray for our first call pastors and the mentors and all of us who are on retreat. And I hope you have a great week. And I invite you to look for Jesus to come to you and bring resurrection. I'm Bishop Craig, and this is Take One. May the peace of Christ be with you always. Christ is risen indeed. Take care.